Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Gayle, and today, I don't know if you can hear the rain, but this is going to be yoga for a rainy day. So rainy days are a good excuse to stay inside, chill out, relax, and just like listen to the rain and feel the coolness coming from the rain, that cleansing quality, and just really enjoy some time relaxing on the mat, inspired by the rain. So for this practice, it'd be nice to have a blanket, some kind of blanket, towel, something you can use for a little support, some blocks or cans or something you can also use for some support, and a resistance band like this if you like, or some kind of yoga strap or just strap that you can use. So let's get started. Let's start on our backs with a nice little chest opener. So take your blanket or your towel or whatever you have and roll it up. Now the nice thing about this is you can control the height of this kind of makeshift bolster. So you could roll it halfway up, you could roll it 3/4 of the way up, you could roll it all the way up. I think for now I'm going to roll it about a little more than halfway up. And I'm going to place this so that the roll of the bolster is right about underneath my shoulders, and I have a nice little padding for my head here. So you just want to lie back on your blanket. Maybe bring your arms into a cactus position or some position with your palms facing up. Take a soft inhale. And on your exhale, just let everything drape to the floor. So this should be very comfortable for you. If it's not, you need to readjust. There's not just one exact place for the blanket to be, but I think of it like right underneath the bottom of my shoulder blades, so that my shoulders are more or less resting on the floor and I don't have any strain on my low back. So if this is too much, you can always unroll it a little bit. You just want to feel a nice chest opening, which invites the breath in easily. So focus on nice, smooth inhales and exhales, letting the breath lengthen naturally as you relax. If it's not raining, you could imagine the soft sound of the rain, the cooling breeze that comes when basically nature is being cleansed. This is a time to relax. Let your mind empty. And really get in tune with your breath. We'll just stay here for about another minute, just so you can notice more and more opportunities for your body to let go. So just as the rain cleanses the earth, our breath cleanses our bodies. So it's important to take time to just be with our breath. Slow down and relax. When we have a forward posture and our shoulders are caving inward, it makes it more difficult to breathe. because we're kind of constricting the front of our bodies, and there isn't quite as much space for our lungs to expand easily. It doesn't mean you can't breathe. It just means this is an easier way to open to the breath. So just staying nice and relaxed. You can bend your knees, gently roll to your side. Just move the blanket out of the way for now. And then come back onto your back and just notice how it feels. Just like after you've taken a shower and you've been cleansed, it feels like your whole body feels so good. Just notice how it feels now. And just rest with the sound of the rain. And then slowly bend your knees. Hug your knees into your chest and gently rock from side to side. Maybe rock the knees around in circles. Just giving yourself a gentle massage. And do that in both directions. And place your feet as wide or even a little bit wider than your mat. Your arms can be in a cactus position or they could be straight. And just start to gently roll your knees, your whole leg from side to side. When your feet are together, it's a different feeling than when your knees are apart. You get more of a stretch in the top leg and the quad when the legs are separate. And it's a little bit more of hip movement. So we can get into some mobility of the hips, which is always healthy for us. You know, when we sit, we're still and we don't get this mobility, and if we stay still for too long, we start to stiffen up and the fascia tightens. And in general, it doesn't feel that great. So just next time you twist to the right, stay here. Let your leg relax. And if you want, you can think of stretching out through your left knee, pulling your belly back a little bit to create a little gentle stretch on your inner thigh. And come on back up to center and shift to the other side. And first, just relax and see where you can notice some tightness and restrictions. And then stretch a little bit deeper by stretching out through your knee and pulling back through your hip. And come back to center and just let your knees rest in on each other. Let your back completely relax. And feel how your chest rises and your belly rises with each inhale. And then there's a settling down, relaxing on the exhale. And pick your knees up again. Give yourself a little hug. And this could be a good time to place a block between your knees or some kind of space there. You could even use your towel or your blanket. Stretch your arms out like in a T shape and gently lower both knees across to the right. See if you can let both shoulders rest on the floor. You might have to wiggle your shoulders a little bit to the right if the left shoulder's up. But again, just let everything relax. Just enjoying this gentle twist. And think of lowering your left hip to the floor as you draw your knees up and slowly twist over to the left. Again, you can always shift your shoulders to the left if your right shoulder is lifting off the floor. And if this is uncomfortable, place some kind of padding, some kind of spacer between your knees, and that will give you less of a twist and be a little more comfortable. Because we want this to be really comfortable. That's our goal here. One of the goals, anyway. And slowly bring your right hip back down to the floor to bring your knees up. Spread your knees apart. Face your feet toward the sky and come into a little happy baby, just gently rocking from side to side. And release your left leg, straighten it out on the floor. Keep your right leg in a half happy baby. And see if it's ready to, if your knee's ready to go a little closer to the floor. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And remember, in happy baby, you can always hold lower on your leg. And now we're just gonna bring that knee to the inside, hug your knee into your chest. Stretch out through your left toes, and maybe circle the ankles in both directions. Come back into your full happy baby. And notice if there's a difference between the two sides. My right side that I just worked on a little bit feels a little more open. So now I'll do the same thing on the left side. So stretch your right leg out. Just come into a half happy baby on the left side. Let your hips open up a little bit more. If they're ready to, don't force anything. And then release your foot, hug your knee into your chest. Start to circle your ankles. You can point and flex your feet as you circle. Again, just getting some movement. And notice the movement, like when you're holding your leg, notice the movement in your calf muscle from circling the ankles. And it just gives you an idea of how connected everything in our body is. And we'll come back into our full happy baby. And gently rock from side to side. And then we're going to release our feet and slowly roll onto our sides. And come on into child's pose. Rest your forehead on the floor, or if you need to place a block or a blanket underneath your forehead, feel free to do so. Instead of having your hands back by your feet, stretch your arms forward and keep a little bit of a lift underneath your arms. On your next inhale, let your spine round to come forward. And on your exhale, lift your hips and glide back. And just keep this continuous motion up. It's like the sound of the rain is continuous. See if you can find that rhythm within yourself. Just gently gliding back and forth. Opening up the spine, getting some movement in there, which is so important. And then rest for a breath or two in your child's pose. Inhale back up again, coming into a tabletop, and just start to glide your hips from side to side. And let your whole body move with the rhythm of your hips. Just get creative, feeling what feels right for you, not trying to overthink anything. But again, just go with the nature of your breath, the nature of the movement of your spine. And come back to center and start to circle your hips. Big movement in the hips. Reverse the direction of the circles.
just little side shifts, side to side. First with your back rounded, and then with your back arched. Then take your mat and fold it up a little bit. Take your blanket or your towel, whatever you have to glide on. And sit back on your heels. Bring your knees actually a little closer toward the edge of your mat and start to slide the blanket forward and slide your hips back. And just go back and forth, nice and easy. Keeping some engagement in the arms. So there's a lift underneath your arms. And then glide your blanket, slide it over to the right. Let's have a little plant in the way. And slide it back over to the left. And just a nice, slow, gentle gliding from side to side. And then just bend the elbows out to the side and push your arms forward. Just going back and forth. Your blanket stayed forward. Come off your mat again, unroll it. Step your, you might want some blocks where you can reach them. So place one block on each side of your mat and step your right foot forward. Keep a little lift of this back leg as you stretch your knee forward. And you might even I think my legs, for what I'm trying to accomplish here, which is some dorsiflexion in the front ankle, I'm gonna bring my front foot in a little bit so that you can see when I bring my knee forward, I'm trying to keep this heel down and really get into this ankle. You'll feel a gentler stretch on the back quad, the back hip flexor. And then shift back. Maybe try a little balance. Bring your arms behind you. Reach forward over your leg. So you can keep holding onto the blocks, or you could try a little bit more of a balance. Whoa! And then come forward again. And just take it at your own pace, a few little forward and back. Just if you want to play with a little balance, go for it. If you want to keep your hands on the blocks, that feels pretty good. And then stay here for a moment, enjoying this stretch in the back of your leg, the hamstrings. Press your heel into the ground a little bit and try and drag your hip back without your heel moving. And then come forward. Bring your right knee back, step your left foot forward. And we'll do the same thing. So I'm taking a shorter stance so I can get into the flexion of my left ankle. Maybe you try it without your hands on the blocks when you straighten your front leg. Or you can keep your hands on the blocks. And you can pause in either place if you want to stay there a little bit longer. You just want to listen to your own body. And come back into your tabletop. Lift your left knee up to hover off the floor. And notice that your leg is at a right angle between your lower leg and your upper leg. Try and keep that right angle. Bring your knee out to the side. Trying to keep your knee and your foot at the same height, and trying not to shift your hips way over to the right, but stay as centered as you can. And bring your knee behind you. Float your foot up and lower the knee down to hover. And we'll do that 2 more times. So lift your knee out to the side. Bring your knee behind you. Still trying to keep your knee and your foot even. It helps to have a mirror to see that. Lift your foot up and lower to hover. 1 more time. Out to the side, back behind, lift your foot up and lower down. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So hover your right knee, open it out to the side, bring your knee in line with your hip, bring your foot up. So the inner thigh is lifting and you're not like hovering with a, too much angle. Well, I shouldn't say too much, but you're really trying to bring your foot, like the surface, the sole of your foot parallel to the ceiling. And lower your knee down, out to the side, behind, lift the foot, lower your knee down. Last one, out to the side, shift your leg behind you, lift your foot up. So you're paralleling the hips, lower your knee down. Tuck your toes, walk your hands forward, sit your hips back towards your heels, and press your hands into the floor. Think of gripping the mat with your fingers. Hug your arms in so you feel the muscles of the arms engage, the shoulders engage, and then with your hips staying back, so try not to come forward to push up. But see if you can keep your hips back and your arms straight and long, and lift your hips up into your down dog. Look at your feet and make sure that your knees and your ankles are the same distance apart and that your feet are about hip distance apart or a little wider. And start to bend your knees, bring your knees halfway to the ground, and then stretch your thighs back. So this will give you a little bit of stretch in your feet and just a little bit of movement in your legs. Then walk your hands back slowly to your feet until you are evenly weighted on the mound of the big toe, the mound of the pinky toe, and the center of the heel. So with like this tripod foot shape. Bring your knees, your thighs to your ribs. So you may need to bend your knees and hold your elbows with your hands. Let your head just dangle. And feel the weight of your head stretching, pulling a little bit on your spine. If you can keep your ribs and your thighs together and you want to start to straighten your legs a little bit more, feel free to do that. Try and use as little effort as possible here. If something hurts, if you have pain in your back from doing this, then modify, come halfway up, use blocks, bend your knees more, or don't do it at all. So it's always important to listen to your own body. We're all individuals. And start to walk your hands forward. See how long you can keep your heels down without over-rounding your back. So by over-rounding your back, it would look like this. So try and keep your back nice and long. Walk your hands forward. Stretch back through your heels. And then come up onto your tiptoes. And keeping your heels nice and high, walk your feet forward to your hands. Lower your heels down. Inhale, lift up halfway. And lengthen out through your spine. And exhale, bow forward. Pressing into the earth, inhale, rise all the way up. And exhale, hands to your heart center. So it's, yoga for a rainy day, but we're going to do a sun salutation. We always want to have balance. Like, it's fun to have rain, but we wouldn't want it all the time. So we'll salute the sun that's out there behind the rain. So inhale, reach your arms up. And exhale, lead with your heart to bow towards the earth. Inhale, fill up with the breath and let the breath inflate you and lift your spine, lift your body, and then exhale, bow down again, plant your hands and step back into your plank. So again, grip the mat with your hands, hug your arms into each other. So you're trying to find resistance. If you push into your hands, the floor won't move, so you're going to lift up a little bit more. If you hug your arms in without moving, again, you're going to get a little lift. So we're trying to find some lightness here. And then some tension, some tautness. So stretch your chest forward and your heels back at the same time. That really made my quads engaged. So we want to be using as much of our body as possible. And then just gently lower your knees down without moving your back too much. Bend your elbows, lower slowly down to the floor. Point your toes, lift your shoulders up, and curl up into your cobra. Nice, slow, easy cobra. So we don't want to just be pushing into our hands and having the shoulders come forward. We want to use our back, open up the heart, and slowly lower down. And we're going to make our way into down dog. So tuck your toes and press up and back to downward facing dog. Step your left foot in about half a step and reach your right leg up into the air. Reach out through your toes and out through the fingertips, and then hug your knee tightly into your chest as you shift your shoulders forward and step your foot forward. So let's say your foot only got to here. You could take your right hand on your right calf and help it to come forward. Lower your back knee to the floor. And inhale, reach your arms up. Interlace your fingers except for the index fingers, and think of just lifting your heart up toward the sky, squeezing your arms towards each other, and just imagine that the rain was just softly falling on your face, cooling it off. And lower your hands back down. Lift your back knee up. Stretch your hips back. Lean forward over your leg. And come back into your lunge again, so you can keep your knee down like we did the first time, or you can lift the back knee. Crescent lunge. Inhale, rise up. Let your heart open. And on your exhale, slowly bring your hands back down and step back, downward facing dog. So we don't always have to be moving fast to get the benefit of whatever it is that we're doing. Oftentimes, if we move a little slower, we can pay more attention and there's more to discover. Let's step your right foot in a little bit, reach the left leg up. Stretch back first to get long. Charge up your legs by engage, like hugging your legs toward each other, maybe pointing out through your toes. And then hug your knee into your chest, lift it high, 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 high. So let your back round, keep your knee lifting, and step your foot forward. Lower your back knee to the floor. Inhale, rise up, interlacing the fingers. Reach up through your fingertips, squeeze the arms in, lift up through your heart. Feel that rain cleansing your face, cleansing your whole body. And exhale, bring your hands back down, lift your back knee up, shift your hips back. Reaching over your front leg. Push into your foot, extend through your heart. Bring your knee forward so you can keep the back knee lifted, or you can lower it back down. Squeeze your inner thighs and rise up, crescent lunge. Again, just let your heart slowly open toward the sky as you keep support in the legs. So the legs have to be strong to support your whole upper body. And then slowly bring your hands back down and step back, downward facing dog. Come up onto your tiptoes and either walk your feet forward like we did before, or just take a little step in, bend your knees, and hop forward to your hands. Inhale, lift up to a long spine. Exhale, melt your heart and bow. Press into the earth. Inhale, rise all the way up. And exhale, hands to your heart. Take a moment to pause and feel your Tadasana, your mountain pose. Imagine the rain just streaming down your body, cleansing you, cooling you off. And then as the big inhale, reach your arms up. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift and lengthen through your spine. Exhale, bow. Step back into your plank. Keep that hover, and you can lower your knees like we did the first time, or if you're feeling energized and want to keep the knees lifted without compromising your shoulders, keep the shoulder blades fully apart from each other, and as you start to lower down, resist. So resist gravity pulling you down until you lower your hips down, curl up into your cobra, chest forward, shoulders back, and exhale, lower down. Press back, downward facing dog. Step your left foot in a little bit, reach your right leg up. Exhale, knee to nose, step your foot forward. Then pivot on your feet, coming into a wide-legged forward fold. And you can adjust your stance here, but press into your feet strongly so you're hugging in a little bit and pressing down. Bend your elbows, let your head hang. So lift your hips up. Relax your back, your neck and your shoulders. And inhale up halfway. Bend your left knee. Getting a good stretch on your right inner thigh. And letting your knee come forward. Maybe feeling a little stretch in your ankle. And shift to the other side. So keep this extended leg nice and long. You should see a little lift in your arch. Now let's say if you feel inspired and you want to go a little bit deeper, which is not necessary at all, but it's always an option, you can lower your hip to your heel, let your other foot come up, and then maybe even do a little twist, bringing your right shoulder to the inside of your right knee. And then we'll come back to center, shift sides, maybe come into that same kind of squat, a little twist, come back to center, and just shift your hips gently from side to side. And come back to center, pivot your right foot forward, keeping your left foot where it is. And windmill the arms up, coming into warrior two. Stretch out through your fingertips, open up through your heart. Keep the legs strong and reach up and back, reverse your warrior. From here, straighten your front leg. Keep reaching from your right toes to your right fingers. And then come forward, keeping that leg straight. You might want to block here. Extend your spine nice and long. And open up through that top arm. Take a few breaths here. Just making little minute adjustments, letting your body settle into this shape. Then bend your front knee, come back up to warrior two, reach back and reverse your warrior. And we'll windmill the arms, lifting the back heel up. Hands come down. Step back to your down dog. Step the right foot in a little bit. Reach the left leg up. Pull your knee into your chest. Keep your knee lifting as you shift forward. Lift that knee up to create space for your foot. And then pivot on your feet, coming into a wide-legged forward fold. This time, press into your feet. Bring your left hand to the center line of your body and start to open up into a twist. And lower your right hand down and twist to the left. Lower your left hand down and just little shifts from side to side. Keep your right foot where it is, pivot your left foot forward, and come on up into Warrior Two. Extending out through the fingertips, keeping the legs strong and grounded. And then inhale, reach up and back to reverse your warrior. From here, straighten the front leg. Reach back even longer so this whole left side is fully extended. And then with your hip pulling back, reach forward. Again, you might want to have a block here. Bring your hand down, open up. Triangle pose. And just sit with the pose for a couple of breaths. Maybe you put a slight bend in your front knee. Maybe you push a little bit more into your foot. Maybe you extend the spine a little bit longer. Try and find that line between your left hand and your right hand. And bend your front knee, come back up. Warrior Two. Reach back and reverse your warrior. And then we'll windmill the arms. So as the right hand comes forward, you lift the right heel up and step back into your down dog. We'll walk your feet forward to your hands, and we're going to come into a squat. So for most people, it's a little bit easier in your squat to bring your feet wider with your toes turned out. But you can also practice with your feet parallel. So your choice. Think of taking your hips back and lowering your hips down rather than your knees coming forward to come into your squat. Bring your hands together in front of your heart. And see if you can lift up as much as you can. So instead of rounding, you're trying to lift up. And close your eyes. And let yourself rock around a little bit in your squat. Just allowing your hips to settle. And lower your hips all the way to the ground. Make sure you have your blocks handy. And take your strap or your resistance band. So I'm going to place my blocks where I can reach them. And we're going to come onto our back. So you can use your hands to lower down, or you could engage your core and try and slowly curl down. As slowly as possible. Really rounding into the low back. Using your deep core muscles to prevent you from dropping down. But you kind of have to hug in. And then try and extend vertebrae by vertebrae out through your spine until your shoulders rest on the floor. Bring your right foot up and take your band or your strap and place it around your foot. Create some tension by pulling on the band or the strap a little bit and pushing up through your foot. Try and feel that your hips are level, more or less. So instead of just letting this right hip come way forward, think of pulling it back down, just square the hips a little bit. And begin to point and flex your foot. And straighten your left leg, flex your left foot, take your strap in your right hand and place your left hand on your left hip. So pay attention here. As we bring our right leg out to the side, there's going to be a point where your left hip is going to want to come up. So for now, I want you to try and keep it down and start to open your right leg out to the side. So most people tend to let their hip come up because at a certain point when you're tight on the inner thigh, or even if you're not that tight, your hip is going to want to lift to bring your leg out more. So instead of letting your hip lift, when you get to that end range point, stop. Okay, you should feel a pretty good stretch on this inner thigh. It's not about getting your foot to the floor. It's about finding your edge and trying to keep your hips down. Now, the closer I bring my foot up towards my head, it's going to be more of a stretch. If it's lower down, it's less of a stretch. So you have this whole range to play with. And it's not always about going into the deepest possible stretch. Now bring your leg back up. And if you're close to a wall, you might want to shift your body over to the right, like I'm going to do. And then we'll just you can open your right arm out to the side, and we're going to bring the left leg across. So bring it across nice and slowly. Maybe you can bring your foot to the floor. You might have to support your foot on a block or a blanket or a book or something. But just enjoy this nice stretch all across your hip and your leg. Flex your right foot, flex both feet, matter of fact, and press both legs into the floor a little bit to find resistance, to engage the muscles, and then let them relax. And because it's a rainy day, let's just kind of hang out here, relaxing without a lot of effort. Just letting your body settle into this, like the rain settles into the earth. And to come back up, think of levering this right hip, like back and down into the ground. Because if we just try and pick our foot up, that's way off to the side. It's going to be a lot more effort. So instead, just think of bringing your hip back and down to the ground. Maybe shift your body to a neutral position. Maybe give yourself one last more little stretch and circle the ankles. And you can release the strap and lower your foot, your whole leg down to the ground. You might feel a little bit lopsided here because the side we've just worked on, the right side, it will feel longer because it's had a release. It's had this not overdone stretching, so this mindful stretching, and it just has more space. And it might be barely measurable. I don't know if even you could measure something and you would see a difference in the measurement, but you can definitely feel a difference. So we'll bend both knees to start. Place the strap or the band, whatever you have, over your left foot. Create some tension, just the right amount of tension. So don't think you have to overdo it and tighten everything up as tight as it'll go. It's like, you know how you have that tendency? So just find a nice gentle stretch. And maybe point and flex your foot if you want. Maybe circle your ankle. Or not. And I want to get a stretch across the whole back of my legs. So normally in standing and weight-bearing poses, I don't necessarily want to hyperextend the knee. But here, just to get that whole line of fascia stretched out, I'm going to press my knee towards the back of my leg a little bit, getting into some hyperextension. Not too much, so you really have to listen to your body on this one, like on everything, but just enough to feel a nice stretch. And then we'll straighten out that right leg and start to open your left leg out to the left. So keeping this right hip down, seeing how far you can go before that hip starts to lift. And unless you're really like a gymnast or a dancer or very almost hypermobile, there's going to be a place before you touch the floor with your foot, well, your hip's going to want to lift up. And so Stop then, come back, anchor that hip. Feel the stretch in your inner thigh of the leg that's extended out to the side. Give it a breath or two, just kind of exploring this edge. Not trying to force anything or prove anything, just noticing. And bring your leg back up. And I'm gonna scoot over to the left side of my mat so I don't go way out of the frame when I show you this. And then I'm gonna start to, we're all gonna together just bring our leg across. Maybe keeping a little bit of tension on the strap. Again, if the foot is higher, it's more of a stretch. If it's lower, it's less. So just find the place that feels the most comfortable, where you're still getting a reasonable stretch without overdoing it. Something you can relax into. And maybe just to kind of, center ourselves, like push both feet into the floor to engage the muscles, and then let everything relax and let go. So again, bring this left hip back and down to lift your leg up. Remove the strap. Lower your leg down. And enjoy how this feels for you. Hug your knees into your chest. And we'll twist again. So we twisted in the beginning of our practice. We'll see how it feels now after all the movement that we did. So you can decide, like, if you want your knees closer to your chest or further away, if you want something between your knees or not. And if you wanted a deeper twist, you could even cross your right knee above your left knee. So we're just gonna lower over to the right side again. Letting yourself relax in the stretch. So you could hook your toes around your ankle if you want. This is giving me a really big stretch in my left hip. So I'm just going to try and relax into it, adjust the shoulders a little bit. Focus on my breath. And instead of trying to go deeper into the stretch, I just want to let my body relax into it. Give yourself permission to feel those tight places without a lot of judgment and criticism of yourself. But instead, just see how much you can relax and let go. And maybe I'm just going to unwrap my legs for the last part of staying here in this twist. And bring your left hip down to bring your knees up. Maybe adjust your hips, and we'll twist over to the left. You can cross your left knee over your right knee if you'd like, and maybe hook the toes. It's up to you. This is a much deeper stretch than when the knees are just resting on top of each other. So you can play with it if you want, if it feels like it's a good thing for you, if it feels right to you. And see if you can relax into it. And I'm going to uncross for the last couple breaths here. Pull your right hip back to the ground to bring your legs up. Bring your knees apart. Come into that happy baby again. Just let your knees relax towards the earth. So again, you don't have to hold your feet. Hold lower down. If you're being pulled up like this, you want to have your hands lower so that your back can be relaxed. If you can hold your feet easily, just hold your feet. Rock gently from side to side. Maybe some big rocks. It feels good. Maybe let your knee come all the way to the floor. Maybe even let your whole leg come all the way to the floor if you want. And come back to center. Release your feet. Bring your feet down. Grab one of your blocks. Lift your hips up and place the block underneath your sacrum, so just below your waist. You shouldn't feel your vertebrae sticking into the block. And bring your knees up. Rest your arms out to the side with the palms up. Straighten your legs. And we'll just stay here in this gentle inversion for a few breaths. You can always adjust the block if it's not quite in the right place. Like I'm going to see what it feels like just a teeny bit higher. So you feel like you have a nice solid platform underneath your hips. And you're trying to find that place where it doesn't feel like you're holding your legs up, but they're just floating in space. Enjoy the lightness in your legs. Usually they're carrying us around, supporting our whole upper body. And now they can just rest and relax. Notice how the sound of the rain has softened. And bend your knees, lower your feet to the floor. Lift your hips up, move the block off to the side. Slowly lower your hips down. And let yourself stretch out into Savasana. So let your whole back relax. Let your feet flop open. Notice how close you feel to the earth. How maybe it feels like your body is able to spread out a little bit more and come into deeper contact with the earth. Allowing yourself to settle in. So please stay with me here for a minute or two, and I invite you to stay longer on your own. But for now, let's do this together. Focus on your breath and those nice, long, slow exhales. Let everything release and let go. See if you can feel your back ribs gently pressing into the earth as you inhale. So that your breath is expanding your lungs and your ribs in all directions, not just the front body moving, but the back body moving also. Give yourself time to feel those subtle little releases. Thank you so much for joining me in this practice. Please subscribe to my channel, click the like button, and I would love it if you would leave a comment or two. Until next time, namaste.